Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Kabir Hemrajani, founder of RiffRaff, a VC-backed AI startup. RiffRaff helps teams get more work done by turning Slack conversations directly into documents. Welcome to the show, Kabir.
Ajay, thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Kabir. But you have already been with. You're born in Bombay, as you said, and you have recently visited. But then this is again an online visit. Shortly after the real visit. So welcome to the show once again, and not only in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about about artificial intelligence and about workplace dynamics, how these are getting impacted. But before that, let's learn a bit more about you, Kabir, about your background, about your journey, so that people know who they are listening to.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you again for having me, Ajay. A bit of background on myself. So I think the last arc of my career I spent working in actually in the video games industry. I was a product manager, and right around about a decade ago, 2013, I was helping a couple different companies grow their games as the product manager. So I managed to grow two different games to $100 million in revenue. One of the things that I learned most from that stretch of my career is you'd be working on a team. The team is fantastic, but as the team starts to grow, I think one of the challenges that I always saw was that it felt like you add somebody new to the team and you want the team to be much faster and produce more work. And what I was always troubled by was it felt like we were producing the same amount of work and it was maybe taking a little bit longer. So you might be able to do better work by having more people, but it felt like it took longer, which is kind of the trade-off that I think every company makes as they grow. And so that's the piece that I've been most obsessed with recently. And I think the past couple of years, the breakthrough that we're seeing in AI, I see a real opportunity to change and fix that. I think AI can actually make teams much faster as they grow.
Absolutely. Teams faster as they grow. But how much, can you get more of artificial intelligence? At the same time, you see, teams are also becoming smaller, either because of the two pizza rule, or either because of Brooks' law, or either if you think that too many cooks will spoil the broth, whatever it is. But when teams are already becoming smaller, and artificial intelligence perhaps is also going to make it small. How do we keep on that whole aspect of human part of the teams? Or will it be, just a few members and they will also look at their own extinction by their own hands or by the hands of AI or by the hands of founders? How do you look at this? Means when we talk of workplace dynamics, will it be only about just a few humans and more of AI everywhere around?
I think one of the things I think about most is that there's still a lot of room for specialists. So when I think about what I'm very good at, there are still a lot of cases where it's much better to have an engineer or a dedicated designer who's talking and thinking about problems from their perspective. And that actually improves the work that you get created. So like one of the biggest challenges I see with AI is that in order to get good results from it, you have to give it a lot of context. So if you're asking it to do something, it needs to know, who am I doing this for? What do you expect to get out of it? What's the goal of this? It's asking like those 5 questions, right? Like who, what, where, when, and why. And what you're going to find is that by adding more people into that conversation, you're going to get better results. One example that we went through recently, I was just having a conversation with my engineer and my designer, and we were talking about I think a screen inside of one of our apps, and I said, oh, maybe we can do something that looks like the Stripe website. They have this really nice animation. And so I can go to AI and I can say, make it look like the Stripe website, or give me like a gradient background. And because I understand that language. the designer said, no, 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 you want a mesh gradient. And I said, oh, so I asked the AI, make it a mesh gradient. Suddenly, this thing went from being two colors to being this like beautiful tapestry of color. And then you can add the engineer and they say, ask for animated CSS code. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, got it. These are the language, these are the terms, the very specific terms that you need to be able to understand and to communicate to AI to get the results. So if you're trying to build something extraordinary, you still need all of those specialized tools. So I still think about that. I think that, you're going to find exceptional, there's always been exceptional people that can run the gamut of understanding design and product and engineering and monetization and the market and all of these things. But in general, I think you're still going to get a lot of value from teams where you get that specialization.
Right. So, in today's time, just the second day of 2025, how should we understand this whole new team dynamics? Means, we should we consider AI as part of your team, or as an extension of your team, or someone who is there to enable you better? What how should we understand team dynamics in today's time, Kabir? And should we also be ready that that in this whole new dynamics, AI will continue to be constant for quite some time, and these team players will keep on shifting in and out.
That's a wonderful question. I think that's a big piece of what I'm focused on understanding. I I think it's very interesting because AI is moving so quickly. So almost anything I say is outdated within the next month, even. But ultimately, I think that the constraints of the technology today um, basically make it more of an assistant to humans on a team. So the thing that I sometimes see, and I think the next step of this is currently we're using those assistants privately, where I talk to the AI and I ask it for ideas and I use those to help refine my work. And I think the next step of that and the piece that I'm building currently with Riffraff, the piece I'm most focused on is I want to centralize that AI within a whole team so that everybody can add their context, because I think that produces the absolute best results. So it's still using AI as an assistant to help you get more done, but it's really being able to centralize that AI within a team so that everybody is using the same one and talking to it and feeding it context on the task that we're working on, and the specific challenges of each of those roles. Because really, like the reason why teams get slower when you add more people to them, it's there's a term for it called Brooks' law, and basically it says the real reason for it is the coordination tax. When you have three people on a team, there's three lines of communication, but when you scale up to seven people on a team, suddenly the lines go up to 11. And so there's just that much more work has to get done to get everybody on the same page. And so I think centralizing AI in the middle, basically, it doesn't completely solve the coordination tax, but it makes it much, much easier to coordinate work when there's a central AI who's always available, who understands the full context of a project that everybody is talking to at the same time.
Right. So it's time up for the Brooks law with the coming of artificial intelligence. Is that so, Kabir?
I believe so. I think one of the next challenges, the next bottleneck that I see is that it's still difficult for humans to multitask. You really want to be focused on, can I do one thing and do it really, really well? Or can I have one core thing that I'm focused on right now to completion? The more you split your effort and your mental cycles, the less you're going to actually be able to accomplish individual things. And I think that's true even with AI. You are not going to, you might get individual jobs done faster, but I don't think you're spreading yourself more thin. I don't think you're using AI to multitask 8 things at once. I think it's just more about like, how do I get this one thing done much, much more quickly, more efficiently, with better quality. And so I think that's a big piece of the bottleneck, really. And I don't see that changing with AI in the next year. In order for AI to be able to reason through what this product needs and everything else, it's going to need a lot more understanding of the way humans operate. And I don't think that data currently exists for those models. I think it's slowly starting to come together where models are learning more about the way people adapt to things and what they love and what they like. But uh, I still look at it very much as, the bottleneck is going to be individuals and how much they can think about and how much they can manage. They're going to be pushing that work to AI. AI will help them accomplish it faster so they can move to the next task. So I think that's going to be very much exactly what the bottleneck is for that work.
Right. Let's look at it from a common person's perspective, especially smaller businesses and all those who may want to understand it from that. If if we look at a workplace in today's time and whatever work happens at that place, how would should or how do these people look at this whole AI into whatever they are doing? You talked about Slack and all these things. How should they look at it? How would a founder look at it? How would the owners look at it? How would a manager look at it? How would a team look at it? And how would an individual look at it? Will it ever be in the same way that one would want it to be? Because more productivity, when we talk of productivity, a lot of times, people will, it will be much more about the founders. Like today, we thought that, we will have a lot of time in hand if we have more automation, a lot of things. But that is not happening. We have other problems. Then that is where the great resignation came in. The purpose part woke up within us. So I want to understand, and an individual, you can give them everything from Slack to Flack to whatever it is. But at the end of the day, their own individual aspirations may not be the same at as what the managers are trying to achieve. Individually, managers are also employees. They may think it differently, and the founders, even though they are talking about productivity, at the end of the day, they also know that AI is not the be all and end of all. So, what my question is that how should all these different uh, people within the organization then understand AI, use of it, either from the productivity part of it, and also from the human part of it, being about the human part of it. Help us understand that, Kabir. You are the founder of Riffraff. You are helping
Yeah.
get teams work more done by turning Slack conversation directly into document. But a lot of conversations are actually taking away people's conversation within themselves.
Oh, that's a fantastic question. I think the simple fact is that when teams are dysfunctional, I don't think AI can fix that today. And what you're describing sometimes is a symptom of that, right? If managers are thinking differently from the founder and employees are more focused on other things, I think that's sort of organizational dysfunction. I think you can employ tools to fix that, but really I still think that's going to be a human problem at least through this year. You're going to still need to work with individuals to help get them on the same page and really focused. AI can give you ideas for how to, what can I say to this individual to get them excited? But I would much rather, my favorite book on management is still Andy Grove's High Output Management. And he has a fantastic takeaway from this, right? He's like, basically, if you have an employee that's not performing, your real options are you can train them or promote them. Like that's really it. Like if they either do not they either do not have the desire to go do this and you need to motivate them to get it done, or they don't know how to do it and you need to train them. So really those are your options and those are the tools that you have. You can employ AI to help you do those things, but that's still going to be the core of it. The thing that I'm more focused on is creating high quality work at the end of the day and raising the standards of what you produce and what you ship, and what you're willing to put out into the world. And I think that from my perspective, what I see is that when teams are working today, the workflow is very individual and very segmented. So AI performs really, really well when it has full context on the task, as I described earlier. And what you're finding in the workflow today is that a team will be talking in Slack about the work that they want to do. They'll switch to another tool, something like Notion, where they're trying to do the work. And then they'll switch over to ChatGPT and say, how could I say this better? Or what do you think? Give me some ideas for what the topic for this, the headline is for this article. And what you've actually done through that workflow process is make the work worse, because you've split the context across 3 different tools rather than having it in one single place that understands the whole broad context of it. And so the real thing that we're building at Riffraff, the place that I want to go, is how do we take all of that context and place it into one setting where the entire team can take a look and understand exactly what it is. If me as a founder, I should be able to say, hey, this is what we're doing today, and this is why we're doing it, and this is what I want to see. And then I want to have those individuals on my team be able to contribute to that vision and say, okay, great. If we're going to produce a really great feature, this is what I want the design to look like. This is what I want the user to experience when they use this feature. This is what I imagine it looks like for them at the end of the day. I want engineers to describe, from their terms, okay, got it. We want the user to feel this. In order for them to get there, they have to do it quickly. We need to architect the system so that they get results very fast, or they feel like the results are coming in quickly. And so when you compartmentalize it like that, and you have everybody talking in the same context, now the AI really understands, got it. This is how you want to architect it. This is how you want to get this done. I can create documents that can capture all of those ideas and keep everybody on the same page. So everybody's looking at the same thing. And also everybody's seeing those prompts, right? If I'm describing this thing and then it puts it into a document, you're understanding how I'm thinking about it. If the first version of the document that the AI puts together is bad, I'm going to say, no, this is what I want. This is how I want to change it. And so exposing that data, which normally just lives inside a ChatGPT prompt somewhere hidden, but by making it available to the team to read inside of a Slack channel, suddenly you have so much more insight into how I'm thinking about things, what's important to me as a founder. And I think that is one of the huge things that AI can unlock today to make teams much more coordinated and much better at performing and being focused on a single task.
Right, Kabir. What about, elevating team culture? In the real world, human world, when we are meeting with people, they say team building. That's where the 2Ps I also came in. Eat and work. And less than 10 people, so team culture that gets built. But when we are using more of artificial intelligence, does it have it within it so that it elevates team culture as well as elevates team productivity at the same time?
I think you're going to see a lot of team culture tools, AI tools, but I really don't think that you can substitute AI for team culture. And I really think that's still going to be the case, where leaders need to be focused on defining that culture, maintaining that culture, and setting high standards for that culture. So making sure if somebody is not meeting that requirement, that you go have those difficult conversations with them and do your part. I don't see AI replacing that. I think if you do replace that with AI, you're going to have a lot of problems. It will not be able to capture everything about it. It will not be able to understand the context of everything based on what's available, right? It's not grabbing this side conversation that you had with somebody in a hallway that, maybe it bothered you and you want to circle back to it. So I don't think AI is the right tool for that. I think it's still going to be the case where and that's very much what I see for the next year minimum, is those teams should still be working together. You still want to add team members based on your weaknesses, right? As a founder, engineering is not necessarily my strength. I'm more product and marketing focused. I need a great CTO, and I need to be able to communicate with him and work with him and tell him how I'm picturing things in order for him to be able to do the engineering work. And likewise, if there's things that I'm bad at, I'm still going to need people to be able to fill in those holes. AI can certainly help, but again, I think about it as, what are the things that you're focused on that you're good at, and what else can you push off to somebody else? I don't think I would at this point replace my CTO with an AI. I don't think an AI CTO is going to be able to generate the same value as a real person who understands the business end to end and can have that conversation with me about what are the requirements here. I think there's still a lot of room for those teams, and I think that team culture piece of it is still going to be very important. And that's really also the thing that's going to separate the winning teams from the losing teams, because I think the leaders that were successful yesterday, because they focused on culture and making sure that their team is on the same page, operating against the same vision, they're still going to be the teams that are killing it tomorrow.
Absolutely. Let's talk about riffraff. Tell us a bit more about riffraff. And is it only focused on this Slack conversation? Is it too much of a risk? Just focused on Slack. If Slack goes, your company goes, or I have not understood it properly, Kabir.
No, it's a great question. I think we initially built it in Slack because we felt like that was the place that teams most communicate. Microsoft Teams is also a good product in that space. We can absolutely build it for Teams, so we can go wherever. We're not tied to Slack. But I thought that Slack is the right place to validate and build the product end to end and make sure that it works for everybody. So generally, you want to nail, if your product starts working for one person, make it work for 10, make it work for 100, make it work for 1,000. And there's more than 1,000 people on Slack. So that's the reason we started there. And that's where the team conversation happens. I think of Slack as the place where work starts. And for our tool, we want to be there. I don't want you to brainstorm things in ChatGPT. I want you to brainstorm things with your team or inside of Slack together, so that people can add their ideas and make something bigger and better. And so that's really the focus on it. And so the way that our product works, like very granularly, is that that you have to do something. Maybe you've already started a conversation, right? You opened up a new thread and you're talking about, hey, here's this idea I have for a quick marketing campaign. We're going to do a social campaign. These are the details around it. This is what I'm thinking we're going to say for the first post. Here's how we're going to hook users. Here's what I'm going to ask them to share. You have all of those ideas inside that thread. You can basically just reference our bot, and it will join the thread. It will read the whole thing, summarize it, and say, got it. You're building a marketing campaign. Here are the details around it. Here's the things I don't know. It'll create a custom wizard that will ask you questions like, is this a LinkedIn campaign? Is it on Instagram? Where are you sharing this? Is YouTube? And so it'll ask those kinds of questions and then be able to customize and build you a first draft campaign that is phenomenal, right? Like, it will think about stuff that you have not thought of and help you flesh out that idea. And then from there, you can iterate against that document very, very quickly. So somebody else can chime in from your team. Maybe you have a good copywriter on your team. They would be able to say, here's what I think the headline for this social media campaign should be. Or here's the language I want for the closing note. Here's the call to action. And so the AI will take that, instantly add it to the document. Document's updated. Everybody else has both the document output, so they can see what the campaign looks like, but they also have the full conversation thread, so you can see exactly what the copywriter said. I think one of the places that I sometimes notice is, like, the last people in the loop are usually legal, right? You got to run something by a lawyer. In our workflow, you add the lawyer at any point into the conversation. They can at the bot and say, write a disclaimer, put these details inside the disclaimer, disclaim this, this, and this. And based on that, you also have how your lawyer is thinking about this. Like, what are the things that legal cares about? What are the things they're worried about? And so now that knowledge is spread throughout the whole team. The next time you need to start a document or a campaign or anything like that, you have this history of, here's what each individual member on my team cares about. Here's how they get their work done. Maybe I can just speed run through that and just redo all of the prompts and regenerate the output and make changes based on what's changing this time, right? We've moved from a Thanksgiving marketing campaign to a Christmas campaign, and our AI will kind of make those changes for you on the fly and let you adapt based on that.
Right. And which is your main market right now? US, or you are planning to expand in other part of the country, world, including India, obviously?
Right now, we're really focused on finding a handful of design partners that are interested in working closely with us to solve, like, very core needs for their company. So I think what's really magical about AI is that it's multilingual by default, right? It does,
Right.
it'll speak Hindi, it'll speak Marathi, it'll speak anything you want to throw at it. So it's less important to me that where you are in the world, and more how badly do you need our software. And I think if you're spending a lot of time um, drafting an email, and you ask your, you ask your assistant, make me a draft, they create the draft, and then you're asking somebody else for some other information to improve the draft email, you're going to spend a whole day sending this email back and forth between all these different people to get one email that you send out to a client. And our workflow can do that in 2 minutes. You create the chat thread, talk about what's supposed to go inside this document, add everybody to it. It will generate the document. You have the exact output. You can basically show up, 3 minutes later as a manager or as a leader. You can see exactly what everybody has included to create this document output. You can add your last 2 cents, and then you can just copy, paste into an email and hit send. And we also support automations like Zapier. So you'd be able to just say, you could basically just click a button and have Zapier send that email from you directly to whoever it's supposed to go to.
Absolutely. There's much to learn about all these things from you, Kabir, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you to learn about this and also to learn about RiffRaff. So, what's the best way for them to do so?
I'm active both on LinkedIn and on X or Twitter. So feel free to find me on both of those. My username is at Kabir H. So if you search LinkedIn for Kabir Hemrajani, you can find me. Feel free to send me a connection request. I would love to demo our product. So if you're interested in seeing more of the features for it, you can go to riffraff.ai. It's RIFFRAFF. And from there, you could actually just book a demo, and I'll happily jump directly onto a call with you, show you the product. And more than that, I'll actually try to understand what your needs are and tell you, frankly, whether our product is the right fit for you. Can we actually help you as a company? And maybe I can point you to products that are better suited for that. So if your audience is interested in trying it out, that's the place to start. And would love to connect with folks who are working together with their teams to try to produce better documents. Again, our product is fantastic at producing client-ready docs. So things that you want to absolutely just hit send and send it off to a client with charts, graphs, tables, images. It can produce all of that as part of the native workflow. So I would love to speak to teams that spend a lot of time collaborating on documents together.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Cheers. Thank you.